Hi, thank you very much. It's now 5:32 p.m. It's October the 10th, 2017. Our regular CRA meeting is about to begin. As soon as we get roll call, that is.
Okay. Board Member Galvin.
Here.
Board Member Keys.
Here.
Board Member Desulme. Board Member Bieneme. Board Member Chairman Joseph.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed with Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have any officer here? Hmm? Chief Beige, if you please come forward and lead us in Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. That was it. I guess at this time we'll call for the approval of the last minutes
So moved.
of July 11th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Board Member Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 4-0.
Well, the next business on the agenda is items for review. Agenda item number 1. Clerk, resolution to approve a fiscal year 17-18 budget of the CRA.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm waiting on Dunya to put the PowerPoint up for me. There you go. Thank you very much. Good evening, Rasha Camo, CRA Director. Good evening. In your package, you will see a comprehensive booklet which narrates our past accomplishments, our future expenditure plans, and how we intend to spend the money, and also an update on the projects that we have been working on for you. So I have for you a PowerPoint presentation to show you and the public where we are in terms of the revenues, what we intend to do, and to get your approval. So for this fiscal year, our city TIF contribution is $3,031,173,000. As you know, in our recent interlocal that was approved in December 2016, we refund the city 45% of the east side, and that will be $368,364. So we will have a net revenue of city TIF at $2,662,809. The county TIF contribution is at $1,877,602. Again, as per our county interlocal agreement, we are to refund the west side, which is $1,276,653. So our net revenue from the county TIF is $600,949. So a total of net revenue from the new TIF will be $3.2 million. In terms of carryover, these are for projects that were already previously approved by the board and that we've been working on. Those are multi-year projects that I will elaborate on. Then we also estimate interest on investments on the funds that we have in our bank. So we are proposing a budget of $8,742,942. In terms of our accomplishments, this is just a brief summary of what it is that we've done so far. We've given this past fiscal year $800,000 in commercial grants. We've commissioned the design master plan for the train station and the major corridors, which is the Northeast 6th Avenue and West Dixie Highway. We've implemented the market positioning plan. We've also partnered with the city's housing department to develop new guidelines and fund single-family rehab. And most importantly, we were successful in amending our CRA plan, which was approved by the BCC. And as you are aware also, we were successful in getting our third interlocal agreement approved most recently. On the PowerPoint, as you can see, there's a pie chart there. I wanted to make sure that you and the public were aware of our efforts. We contributed $800,000 in commercial grants. We leveraged $955,000 in private match. As you recall, our grants, the larger grants for rehab and business attraction require a match from whoever the applicant is, whether it's the property owner or the business owner. And because of that, so the total cost of projects in redevelopment that we've been able to do this past fiscal year was $1.7 million in just commercial grant rehab. So I think that is very important for people to see how we are leveraging the dollars that we're giving out to businesses. So our future expenditures, we're proposing, our administrative costs is $354,432, which is again 4% of the total budget amount. Our operating expenses, which covers the legal fees, just a few, legal fees, the salaries of staff working on the projects, community meetings, and also contracts for professional services that we'll be talking about further. The total refund to taxing authorities, which is the county and the city, is $1,645,017, which accounts for 19% of our budget. And finally, in terms of capital improvement, we're proposing $5,674,193 in capital improvement projects. That incorporates the carryover fund, which is the $3.8 million that we had to carry over because the projects are going to be finishing up this year, and the new TIF, which covers commercial rehab and housing rehab that we're going to be proposing. So as I was saying, we have several capital projects that are already underway: Sasso Pool, Mocha Plaza, Iron Manors Fountain, and West Dixie Green Trail, to name a few. We are initiating one capital project this year, which was listed in the Downtown Master Plan, which is the Liberty Gardens renovation. We had worked with the Downtown Community Planning group, which is spearheaded by the CP&D department. And after several review and so on, we were able to come up with a design. And actually, the design is in your budget book, if you would like to see it. That is just a rendering submittal from them, and it's on page 7 of our budget book. It gives you an idea of what it is that we're looking for. If you approve this budget, then we will hire the person that will formalize the design and put it out to bid for actual construction or capital. We are requesting to increase our commercial grant to $1 million. Last year was $800,000, and as you recall, we ran out of funding early. This is to help us with existing businesses and to attract new businesses into the CRA. We would like to fund $100,000 in the Film Incentives Pilot Program, and we would like to develop a film music broadcast plan, which, as per our CRA plan, that is an untapped market that we haven't really focused on, but we want to have a proper plan so that we can follow. Rehab at least 59 single-family homes and continue developing other initiatives for multifamily rehab and development. These are just a few of what it is that we are proposing to do with the budget that you have in front of you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess at this point it should be open to the public. The item is now open for the public for comments, concerns, questions, and meanwhile, I guess it's appropriate to mention that we are getting some award. Is it this week or sometime in the next couple of weeks?
Next week.
Why are you so shy about it?
No, I'm not shy. It's on the agenda to
Oh, is
announce
it?
after, yes, under the executive director's report.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, not a problem.
What about our interlocal agreement? That was a...
It's on
Oh,
as agenda
Jesus.
item.
I need to read my agendas before I come. All right, so the item is open for the public to please come and comment and be heard on whichever way you want on that item that was just presented by our dear director. I see no one coming to the mic, so we'll come to the dais for...
Do we have budget books? Did you give me one?
It is in your packet.
It's
No,
not
you gave it
clear.
to us when you met individual.
We went over it. We went over the budget, but I don't think I got a budget book. No.
The one she gave you, it's in the back?
It's not in this binder. It's not
Well,
in this
I have it.
binder.
No, you have it separate.
Oh, that's,
I see.
no,
Yeah.
that's the
I've
budget.
seen it though.
That's the budget. Okay, so my question is, we went over numbers, and numbers I don't see really. The only page of real numbers is one page called the budget, Exhibit A.
Yeah, that's the spreadsheet, that's the county format, but the budget book, the narrative details every single expenditure. So
So-
if you have a question, I can actually
Yeah,
reference
so
you
what I
to the-
don't see, I like numbers, not narratives.
Mhm.
But what I don't see, and you had a slide up on the PowerPoint, is the actual numbers, money that came in, money that goes back, money that came in from the city, money that came in from the county, money going back out to the county. And so I wanted to know what the net income or net TIF revenue was to the city this year before, what page is that?
So the revenue is on page 4
Okay,
of your book.
I see that. So the city contribution, well, it's not really a net. It
So
says a
that's
TIF.
gross.
Right, it says the city contribution, the county contribution,
Mhm.
and a carryover. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the city contribution, the TIF contribution, less whatever we gave back to the county to give us our net TIF revenue for this year, not including the carryovers. So I don't,
So-
you had it on a PowerPoint, so I'm
Yeah,
just.
I did a little chart so you can see, if you could, thank you.
So, I mean, I'm not really getting a number, like, our gross TIF revenue is 4.8 or 4.9, but it's not showing me less the refund of $1 million, which I can't even, $1 million.
And the refund, yeah, at the
I
bottom.
can't see that far, so I have to go over here. But I'm saying
Okay, I'm sorry.
so is it giving us the,
Okay. So, the gross city TIF is $3,031,173, minus the refund to the city for the east side of $368,364. So the net city TIF is $2,662,809. The county TIF is $1,877,602. Minus the refund for the west side, which is $1,276,653, for a net county TIF of $600,949. So your net TIF revenue is 3.2 million, 3.262.
I would have liked to seen that in this particular budget. I mean, I don't want to, that carryover makes me crazy. Because it just, we keep rolling that money
What we'll
over
have
year
to
after
do,
year.
Councilwoman, is the format, the numbers format as in Exhibit A is the format in which the county requires we present the number, which shows
But for us,
a.
since we're voting for it, because
So what I'll
isn't,
do is it's in the
isn't all
slide,
okay.
and what we'll do is we can, and I guess as we go into the future, we will add a additional exhibit page.
That page
that
was
just-
fine,
yeah.
we had it less, it just
Right.
didn't have the footnotes, because isn't all the carryover already allocated?
Yes, it is
Yeah.
allocated to projects. Yes,
So
is
that
correct.
doesn't
That's
mean
not new
anything.
money.
You
That's
just
not
use
money.
that to base your administrative expenses. So what I wanted to see was was it the 3 million too?
Yes.
So
Yes,
that's the
3
new
million
money
too.
coming into the CRA, which is what is gonna go, which we can now sit up here and vote on through the year for projects.
Correct,
Because the other's already allocated.
correct.
Okay, so it's 3.2 we have to spend. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Adam? All right, Ms. Clerk? No, well, we need a motion.
Move approval of the presented budget.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Chairman Joseph. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0.
Item number 2 is a presentation on Chinatown, the Chinatown
you.
Cultural Arts and Innovation District.
Yes, while the consultants are setting up the PowerPoint for it, they'll turn it around, I just wanted to give you a brief historical perspective of how, how we got here. So, on February 2016, the council had approved to designate the corridor the Chinatown Cultural Arts and Innovation District. In May of 2016, a delegation went to China, and we visited 3 cities, Beijing, Shanghai, and Tianjin, where we met with potential investors, government representatives, and also city planners from Shanghai to give us a better understanding of, what it is that we were trying to do and to see if there was interest. Also in May, the city manager, Councilman Desulme, and deputy city manager met with a group of Chinese investors that were visiting the U.S. In July 2016, we hosted a group of Chinese investors and toured the city again for them to see the potential investment of the project, and also for us to get a better understanding and to make sure that we're on the right path. Following an RFP process, Keith and Schnars was awarded the contract to do the conceptual master plan in October. A steering committee was established with representation from the Beacon Council, FIU, a resident, a business owner from the corridor, a Chinese national, and city and CRA staff. A kickoff meeting took place in January of 2017 with the steering committee and the consultants to create the framework of the project. Our first community workshop took place in March of 2017. Our second community workshop took place in May of 2017. And throughout this process, staff has met with several different entities interested in the project. Most recently, this past August, we hosted a visit from the China Chamber of Commerce for import and export of textiles. They represent 3,300 members, and they were interested in the corridor as it is part of the free trade zone. And here we are today with a presentation of the conceptual master plan for your consideration by Keith and Schnars.
Mr. Chairman, before the presentation begins, I'd like to ask just a couple of questions, if I might, very simple ones. What are we being asked to do tonight? Are we being asked to hear a presentation and vote, hear a presentation and do nothing? Are we being asked to expend money this evening? There's been a lot of media run-up to what we're about to see, and I think it would be helpful for everybody in the room to understand exactly what it is we're being asked to do as a result of the presentation we're about to see.
Okay, what you're being asked to do this evening is receive the presentation of the conceptual master plan that's been worked on by our planning consultants for the last several months, and accept/adopt this conceptual master plan. You're not approving any funding associated with this, any buildings or anything. It's really just adopting the master plan. I will add, though, as part of the interlocal agreement, and this is kind of to bifurcate some of these issues that I've also heard, we have a infrastructure improvement requirement for 7th Avenue. That is a milestone requirement in the interlocal that was, it was approved last week by the county officially, so we have no more obstacles in our way from the county's perspective. But that is a milestone requirement. This master plan deals with the concept of what that infrastructure improvement could look like and would look like under this conceptual plan. But you're not approving that money right now. It's actually more of a mandate, it's a mandate in the interlocal itself.
When does the money start getting spent? When do we?
We had, based on the time clock, we had 7 years from last December to come up with this master plan, do design, and spend at least $3 million towards that improvement. That's not necessarily the entire budget, but at least spend that much as a milestone towards reaching our CRA goals.
So 1 year ago, we were given 7 years to spend $3 million.
Up to a minimum of $3 million.
So we've still got 6 years in which to spend $3 million.
On an infrastructure improvement along 7th Avenue.
Infrastructure means sewers, sidewalks.
Sewers, streets, sidewalks, streetscape, landscaping, furniture, anything in the right of way there.
So we're obviously, none of that carries any Chinatown, so to speak. When do we start spending money on Chinatown, or is that whole money going to come from outside developers who want to spend money to rehab their own facades?
So the way I would answer that is, we are showing you the possibilities of what it could look like, and this document will be utilized to attract that private investment along the corridor. We would expect those individuals to potentially look at how we see it, or how we developed it in the master plan, and I'm gonna redevelop my property, or I'm a new owner, to look like and be consistent with the master plan. That could be an existing property owner, as some of them I know are very interested in. In fact, I touched base with Bishop Curry last night about redeveloping his property. He was anxious to hear that we were approving this tonight. And some of the other property owners. And then we're expecting some other development to occur. Hopefully, change of hands of properties, but those are private transactions that the city has no real oversight over, no dominion over, if you will. We'll encourage it to say, okay, if we have a new investor coming in, the same incentives that we just talked about in the budget, we can offer impact fee reimbursement. We can offer build out or renovation dollars towards the renovation or the repurposing of a piece of property along the corridor. Again, being consistent with whatever plan the city adopts. Right now, you have this one in front of you.
So theoretically, if we were to adopt this plan tonight and no developer from the outside were to ever come in and buy into what we're going to, in theory, present to them, what happens then? That's for a future city council to decide, or?
Well, no. And I actually made this comment in when we had the Sunshine meeting with Commissioner Amon. We would go and do the infrastructure improvement that we're required to do.
Sure, but that infrastructure does not, there's a difference between infrastructure, and I'm saying this for community
Right.
digestion.
No, I get it.
And so we because
Right.
once we see the presentation, we open it to public hearing, we could go off on wild tangents. This infrastructure is separate from facades,
Correct.
roadway gate entrances, and things like that.
I would say that the gateways would be considered part of the infrastructure because it's a gateway. It's part of the road. It's signage. So you have directional signage now that we pay for through the CRA. So I'll say the gateway would be included in infrastructure. But as far as the buildings and facades, no, that's a totally separate.
At what point then does the CRA approve gateway funding? Is that tonight, or is that at a future date?
That is not. That would be at a future date and a future budget, and not only a future budget. We'd probably have to have you actually approve an actual design, builder, the whole nine. So like any other, like when we do a street project, there sometimes we bring the vendor, the vendor back to approve the actual details of the project. We would have to do all of that.
So as I understand it tonight, we're going to hear a presentation. We'll vote that presentation up or down. But if we should happen to vote it up, we have not expended a single cent more than we have as of this moment.
Only the money we spent paying these consultants to
But
do
we've
this.
already paid that.
Well, it's not paid all yet, but yes.
In
It's
other
committed.
words, it's already been approved.
Yes,
We're not,
it's
we're
already
not
been- yeah, you already
spending
approved this
any more
contract.
money.
No,
The
no.
vote that may or may not happen in an hour's time does not spend any more dollars on anything. It's a conceptualization that's being presented for us to approve or,
That is correct.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I guess one last question. Has that been presented to the planning commission?
This item did not, no, it didn't, it went before it's a CRA item, it went before the.
Oh, the advisory board, I meant.
Yeah, it went to the advisory board,
Yes.
yes.
The chair and some members of, the chair and some members of the advisory board are here actually in the audience. And I'm pretty sure they'll be making some comments as well, but it was unanimous, it was voted unanimously for recommendation for approval.
But and one thing I'd like to add as well, since it is a project of such a huge proportion, I understand that we've been having different presentations, community workshops, and so forth.
Yes, as part of the planning process, there were community workshops. There was an actual pre-release of some of the images. So that you had an advisory board that you guys selected the membership of, and they've been working with the consultant the entire time. So this is the product of all of those meetings, that feedback, and all of that work.
The reason why I mentioned that, I mean, is in your experience, a project of such big proportion, is it customary to see it voted on at first presentation before a board, before?
I mean, the stuff that in my
Because
experience,
it's very voluminous,
Yeah,
and
no.
there are different parts of it.
it is voluminous. There are a lot of different parts because you have economic analysis in here. But given that this is a conceptual master plan,
Yeah.
it's, yes, I've seen this board has approved master plans, several of them in the past. In fact, you have a few of them that are getting ready to come. The TOD master plan for the transportation area along the railway,
Yes.
the arts and entertainment, all of those master plans have come forth. Your Greenway plan, all of those things are plans that you've had the CRA downtown master plan, the parking master plan. And remember, those are like, master plans are like guides. They're guideways. Hey, we sat down, we did get all the feedback, and this was the culmination.
The simple reason I asked the question is because you remember the downtown master plan, for example. I don't know what kind of vote was done on it prior to me coming. I think it was voted on, I don't know, it was worked on
Right.
a couple of years before I got here, but it wasn't adopted until after I came in, and I brought back the subject of the concept, the downtown concept plan, and get it to be voted on. But it was sitting there for 2 years.
And sometimes with these plans, it has been my experience.
Yes, not to rush too much into them too
you
fast.
do the plan,
Yeah.
and sometimes it sits on the shelf. But with your leadership, yes, you're supposed to pull the plan down off the shelf and actually,
Yeah.
hey, what did this say? This might work, or I like this. Perfect example, Griffin Park. It's supposed to, the master plan has an amphitheater and a lot of things that we need to be working on. It's a guidepost of capital investment and projects that we should be considering and bringing forth. So they are being utilized. The parking, we're going to be working on the parking garage as part of one of the CRA plans. That parking garage is part of your parking master plan that was done years ago, and now we're able to bring that to fruition. So, yeah, I would say, not to tell you how to vote, but I would see you adopt the plan if you like it and you like the content. If you want tweaks here and there, we do tweaks. But to say that you just outright don't like a plan, we would have to. At this point, I would have expected to have already kind of gotten some of that feedback or garnered some of that feedback from you guys.
All right, let's get to it.
I have a quick question. While you were talking, you said that the committee that we put together, who's we, not me?
Yes, the steering committee. You had
Not me.
Oh,
You did not come before
well,
us.
no, the body chose to create a steering committee for this project.
But we did not put it together. Not here on the dais.
Well, I don't know that you necessarily selected
It's because
members.
you said we here.
Well, you
body.
directed for the creation of a steering committee.
No, we were
Not
not involved
we
in that process.
I didn't.
I don't even know who are in the committee. They've never been presented to
Me
us.
either. I don't think.
I don't know them.
Well, legislatively, you did
No,
direct.
we
the-
did
No, we did not. Not
No, we
legislatively.
did not.
No.
We did
Right.
not.
No.
Okay.
It was never discussed on the dais, the selection of the committee. So let's go with no more question?
No, you never been presented to us. We just heard that you put a committee together. This is the members of that committee, but we didn't choose it will be a university, a resident. We didn't even actually set how should we put together the committee. I just heard you have a committee.
Okay, I will provide you with what I have.
The attorney just reminded you that we've discussed that. We've mentioned that before. Yeah.
I would say as they would in court, asked and answered. As we went through this, I recall previously.
Yeah, we will.
So, the clerk. So without further ado, then the presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Albert Jacob. I'm from Keith and Schnars. I have with me my colleagues, Bruce and Brad, and our consultants, Carl Lihu, who's here on my left, and our marketing consultant, Kevin Flenter, right here. Okay. Rasha has done an excellent job of giving you an introduction of where the project lies and the location and on 7th Avenue. So I'm not going to go too much into detail for that because it'd be a repetition of everything that Rasha said. The location, as you can see there, is in the circle of where the project lies. It's right next to on the west side of I-95 on Northwest 7th Avenue, between 125th and 119th and 135th Street. The process that we use in order to create this conceptual master plan, the major input that we got from the people, from the public, was that there was no sense of place, there was no downtown, there was no place to go as far as downtown is concerned. And so we use what is called a vibrant community form that focuses primarily first on the government, which is setting all the zonings and the code and the permitting process in place, and then, of course, the socio-economical heart of the project, which would mean the economic side of the project. We also then did the funding and market analysis for the project, which was done by Fishkind and Associates, and Kevin is here from there, and he's going to have his own brief presentation. And of course, the design aspect of it, in which you focus on the design, your consultants, who would be architects, master planners, and all the other consultants, engineers in that process. Once again, the whole community participation process was handled by creating a steering committee, which was done, the first meeting was held in January, and the 2 additional workshops were held, one in March and the other in May. Surveys were collected, and of course, an interactive website was created so that we could get further input. As far as creating the master plan is concerned, there were certain elements that we focused on in order to create the master plan and see what opportunities we have. We focused on business and education first, aesthetics, art and architecture, the market and the events and activities, and of course the circulation, which was a critical part of the conceptual master plan. We looked at guiding principles. We divided guiding principles into 2 tiers, and we then formulated certain important aspects to the guiding principles. The next thing that we did was we went out, we studied the site, the existing site, the conditions, the signage, the setbacks, and all other existing site features that are on the property. So, in conclusion, as far as the information collection is concerned, we found that we have 92 acres of area in the 16 blocks area in this district. We have, if you subtract for right-of-ways and all, you're going to end up with about 64 acres of land that you can use to design the property. Now, this conceptual master plan that you're going to see was created on the basis of the marketing analysis that was done by Fishkind and Associates. So it has a solid footing. There were 2 other additional items here that we wanted to share with you, and that was a graph here that shows you on the left, as far as retail space is concerned, the blue line at the bottom is what shows you where you are now, and if you follow this conceptual master plan, it's the red line on top. So it's the increase in square footage, of course, and of course increase in dollars. If you look at the graph on the right-hand side, you will see the office space. The existing office space in that area, in that district, is the blue line at the bottom, and the red line on top is if you adopt and follow the conceptual master plan for the project, then you would be up as far as, once again, square footage and dollars. Kevin from Fishkind will go more into detail as far as this item is concerned. With this, I would like to now introduce you to Kevin from Fishkind and Associates, and he's going to do his market analysis presentation.
Well, my name is Kevin Plensler with Fishkind and Associates, 12051 Corporate Boulevard, Orlando, Florida. Thank you for, we appreciate you including us with respect to Chinatown, and I'll briefly go through some of our concept market. We were tasked with concept feasibility, market feasibility, fiscal impact analysis, and an overview of the EB5 investment program. One of the first things we wanted to do when testing a project of this scale and scope in a market is first understanding the concept, the feasibility of the concept. One of the important parts of this is understanding how committed the local government is to the project. In this case, we kind of went through our little checklist, and we believe, based on what we know to date, that obviously, the North Miami government is very much committed to a project like Chinatown, and that kind of is one of the first checklist items we look to when we look at feasibility. The next one is understanding the real estate and the economics of any one project. Given that's kind of what we do, first we want to understand the real estate. Where is it? Is it in a decent location? Does it have visibility, access? Is the property of decent size to support a project of this scale and scope? And is there some type of funding process involved with the project? Once again, in this case, we check a lot of those boxes, and all of them, in fact. We feel pretty comfortable that the initial concept feasibility is strong. The third one we like to look at is kind of the understanding of what are the connective threads of the project to the market. In this case, we're looking at a Chinatown project in North Miami. So what connects China, Miami? Where are the linkages between the concept and the market? In this case, there are many. We have Florida International University has its hospitality and tourism management program has a program in Tianjin Center, opened in 2006. There's a constant throughput and relationship with the Chinese and Chinese students and their understanding of the South Florida Miami market. So this represents one thread. Another thread is the Port of Miami. It's a major location for port traffic on the east coast of the United States. Over $1 billion in infrastructure improvements are occurring at the port today to support the expansion of the Panama Canal and positioning the port to handle future cargo from Asia and other markets. And based on data to date, over 30% of shipping activity is associated with the Asian market, and a lot of that comes from China. So this puts Miami in a very strong position with respect to its relationship to China and Chinatown concept. The next component is international tourism. Miami is a world-class city. Lots of people from all over the world come to North Miami, the area. And Miami is a well-known city throughout the world. And based on data from Visit Florida, over 1.2 million visitors from Asia are visiting Florida in 2015, and that number continues to grow. So the Chinatown project and market represents some strong linkages. With respect to the concept feasibility, we also did some research on analog projects, looking at places like City Place in West Palm Beach, Creative Village in Orlando. These areas are basically these are infill projects in urban cores that are visions for development. We looked at these projects specifically because of their locations in urban core and wanted to kind of provide insight as to the length and commitment of time and resources to projects of these types. Creative Village started back in 2008 and is putting its first building and coming out of the ground beginning probably this year. So it takes a long time for these projects to come to fruition, and that with projects of this scale, that's a normal, natural process. The next step we had was looking at the market study. And with respect to Fishkind's commitment, we looked at retail, office, and hotel in terms of the concept study that Ka and his team put together. We looked at it in the context of what does the kind of market look like today with respect to the footprint. Today there's roughly 800,000 square feet of space within the corridor. And based on historic growth patterns and where it was going, there was not a whole lot of development that's occurred really in the last 10 to 15 years within this corridor, indicating that there's not a lot of activity. And so the future growth potential based on the current land use patterns wasn't particularly strong. But with Ka's plan in place, what you see is an increase of over 500% in square footage, going from the existing 800,000 square feet to over 4.5 million square feet of mixed-use space that's highly vertical based on the LDRs. Based on the nature of the market and given the dynamic market of Miami-Dade and the concept, we believe that this kind of square footage over a period of decades is quite reasonable and can be done. Obviously, given this complete change in dynamic, a project like this represents structural change, where you're taking something that had 800,000 square feet and increasing it by 500%. Obviously, a concept plan of this scale and scope represents a significant fiscal impact to the local government with a taxable value at total build out of over nearly $640 million, which represents $4.7 million in ad valorem revenue to the local governments. So needless to say that obviously a concept plan of the scale and scope represents a potential fiscal impact for the local municipality that's significant and really alters the dynamic of the market. The last item we looked at was the EB5 investment program. If you're not familiar with the program, this is a program through the USCIS which takes investors who invest anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. With those investments, they're required to generate employment of 10 jobs per their investment. And this is a normal activity and this is a well-established type of investment process that takes investment dollars from outside the United States, and in return for that investment, those investors are able to get a green card and eventually be able to live in the United States. This type of investment is often done for large-scale projects like this, and represents another source of capital that can be injected into the project. And given the relationship between the Chinese and this project, this is a potential source of revenue that can really jumpstart a project. Based on our findings, pardon me. I'm getting to the pretty pictures of CAS. Based on what we've kind of seen to date, we believe that the concept and market data suggests that the project like Chinatown is very viable in this market and represents a potential structural change for North Miami. I'll give it to Ka now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for that. I'd like to now introduce Ka Li Hu, who is the architect, and he's going to take us through his conceptual master plan.
Thank you, Albert. Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Ka Li Hu, the principal in charge of this project from Li Hu Partners Architects based in Orlando, Florida. And I thank you for your time this evening. My responsibility for this master plan is about the urbanism and kind of define the architectural character of it for 16 block of urban land. I will quickly go through this graphics and briefly discuss with you the key 12 principles about design, and then I would be happy to answer any question that you have. First, we have gone through under the leadership of Larry and Rasha and Tanya, and also Councilman Alex, for the past almost a year, multiple workshops, and the design that you see in this sketches and diagram are the culmination of the community input that we receive from the culture feedback that we receive from scholars that knowledgeable about Chinese culture and urban design, and also the result of the economic analysis that conducted by Fishkind and Associates. We base, there are 12 principles in our design and architecture design and urbanism. The first principle is we imagine the Chinatown in terms of architecture and urban design as echoes of 4 dynastic architectural tradition of Chinese architecture. Going from South Gate to the North Gate, you will experience 4 sub-districts that will be planned and designed to evoke the 4 dynastic dating back to the 960 of the Song Dynasty to the current contemporary China and beyond. The second principle that we promote is not only evoke the culture, the tradition of Chinese, but also have to be looking forward and really help to reinvent North Miami as the unique place, right? And we will advocate it strongly for any innovations in design and in the way that engineering and infrastructure. So that could be a very strong component of this master plan. The third point, the third principle that we promote is the innovative stormwater management. Instead of letting individual developer and property owner responsible for their own stormwater management, we propose that the district will have a global stormwater strategy to help the property owner free of that responsibility and also increase the efficiency. For example, in a typical development project, it depends on your site design. Typically, you would have to dedicate about 30 to 35% of your property for stormwater management. But under the global master plan that consists of lake, pond, and canal, this is circulating water. This master plan only represents about 16% of the total property. So it's quite a saving in terms of real estate. The 4 principles that we want to stress in this master plan is the landscape design. I think we have stand a lot to learn from the landscape design that transcend cosmetic, transcend just the decorative nature of landscape. And we promote that based on the Eastern concept of landscape design. It should design to emphasize harmony and the spiritual connection between people and the natural world. The 5th principle is about water. Water is, in conjunction with stormwater management, it will become the a central theme for the urban design that kind of talking about the sense of season and the sense of seasonality. The 6th principle is could be a multilingual kind of wayfinding. So it will be multilingual, not only in English, but Chinese and other languages to really turn North Miami into an international destination. Then we also promote other things that we feel is important for a viable urban setting. A wide sidewalk with a continuous awning along the 7th Avenue now that we propose to become Innovation Boulevard, and canopy that allow the continuous urban experience of the pedestrian. And also promotion of green roof that will help to minimize water runoff and reduce runoff, and also create a more greener city. And in a more technical side, we also discuss the roof design in traditional Chinese architecture and how the entrance should be addressed, and facade, and using authentic materials so we don't we don't end up, kind of in a kind of a theme Disney type. So it had to be culturally relevant and authentic. And then we stress lighting. So lighting is also an opportunity for the district to become really a sense of place. And I think Larry touched on the gateway concept. It could be a very impressive structure. This view that you see is looking from North Gateway, looking south with the I-95 corridor to the east on the left-hand side, and the west half of the district could be kept low. I think the minimum height there, the maximum height there is about 55 feet, and then on the east side, which is along 95, then we could go up to 200 feet, based on the current zoning. This sketch show you a concept that we picked up in one of the community workshop. That was suggested by community people that we should do something to allow people to park at both ends of the district and park their car and engage district by foot. So this sketch you see a concept beside the gateway, but also a 9-deck parking garage. And on top of that, you will have a hotels and conference center based on traditional Chinese architecture, enclosed in the metaphor that we use here is the enchanted forest. So it is a living environment that enclose the conference and hotel, but it's screened. It's not air conditioning. So you have kind of a living system in there. You have birds, you have butterflies, you have plants, and you have really people-friendly space in there. This view you see is taking looking from the Central Park, looking north. On the left-hand side, you see the building kept at low at 55 feet maximum, and on the east side of the master plan, the building has allowed to go up to pick up density and the use of real estate. This view, we tried to show the relationship of the 7th Avenue. Now we propose it to become Innovation Boulevard, looking to the south. This is you standing on the North Gateway Hotel, looking south, and you see at the south gate, you see the other gateway. On the left is the high density district, and on the right, the west side, is adjacent to the residential neighborhood, and you see how the stormwater system is globally managed and become an urban amenity for the district. And that is to the extent of my responsibility. So I'll yield it back to Albert, and I'll be glad to answer any follow-up question you may have. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back, but I'll be brief, I promise you. Okay, the 3 plans that you see here are the same Northwest 7th Avenue. The map on the left shows you in blue which buildings would be up to 200 feet in height. The red would be up to 55 feet in height, and the yellow would be 35 feet. Now, the parking are the yellow dots that you see in the second plan, and in the third plan, you basically see that whole area with I-95 on your right would be zoned, the blue color is zoned as C1, commercial. Okay, so we took CAR's plan that we worked on together, and we created what's called a design district guidelines. We had to put these guidelines in place so that someone who owns the property would know what to do and where to go from here. Also, we are showing the possibilities of different styles of architecture, and with an emphasis right now on Chinatown. And of course, the major cultural icon over here would be at the corner of 119th and 7th Avenue. We looked at sustainable themes for the district. We know we need to encourage pedestrian traffic. We need to make sure that we provide sidewalks on both sides of the street, and we provide adequate trees as far as shade is concerned. And of course, a very important element at this stage is putting the overhead power lines underground. Building organization, this is something just to give a guidance based on the concept plan that we created, and that was basically, to have a compact development, to have a focal point on site, to connect the different properties together. Connectivity is a very important issue. And also, as far as enclosure is concerned, the creation of courtyards so that you bring your building very close to the property line and leave a central court open in the middle. We looked at different types of roof structures that you could possibly design. Over here, we are focusing primarily on a Chinese roof, and that's Chinese style of architecture. But then there is, of course, a lot of roof decoration, and which can be interpreted in many, many forms. The roof guidelines over here also, there's a very important different concept, which is called touching the sky. And as you can see, that's the reason why the ends of these buildings curve up towards the sky. The facade guidelines are important. Make sure you don't create a wall that's blank, that's more than 75 feet long, and similar items like this. All this is in detail in the report. At the top of the buildings, also how you treat them, how you color them, what colors you use, how do you enrich the environment and make it exciting for the people so that the sensory memory is there and people will come back to these spaces. The entrances also should be recessed in order to break the plane of the entrance. Chinese landscape, if you do have design a garden, we have guidelines in there how you would want to, if you would want to create a Chinese garden. Lighting is a very important aspect also, whether it's contemporary or Chinese or whatever style you use. Lighting, you gotta light up the facade and show what you're building. And signage, of course, is also a very important factor. We gotta make sure the signs in all languages are all the same size and same height, which is an important element. Building colors, as far as colors are concerned, red is the most important and light color. There is yellow for royalty, and then there are the other colors that you can introduce on your building. Now, taking all these guidelines into account and taking the conceptual plan that CAR had created, we now looked at the possibility of how can we design our open spaces. The spaces between the buildings also should be designed, and we have to keep all these elements in mind. And so this is a representation right now, a concept of what one of the spaces could look like in the design. As you see, it's a large open space with buildings in the background and green spaces in the middle. This could be one of the designs of the green space in the conceptual master plan that Carl showed you. Another view of that same plaza, where, as you can see, there is a pedestrian walkway at a higher level that allows you to connect the connectivity that I talked about. Here is your pedestrian walkway that connects all the open spaces. And then, of course, we want to show you how the trees, the buildings, how they work together, and how important it is for all these elements to be thought of in design in the very beginning, at this stage, at the conceptual master plan stage. And then here's an example of a decorative element in Chinese style. Not to say that you cannot have other decorative elements in different styles, but this is just an example with an emphasis with a theme of Chinese styles. And this is a possible treatment of one of the corners of the building, which shows you the pedestrian walkways coming in together. Okay, the canal concept that Ka was talking about, we wanted to just show you how that would work. There's a canal right there in the image running all along a commercial area, and how it could work even in a narrow right-of-way. Now, this is a typical section of the major road with median, with street trees. On the left-hand side, you will see a promenade that shows you what kind of environment you can create when you create a pedestrian promenade on a street. This is a plan of that same street I just showed you in section. It's a plan view, but we just wanted to demonstrate what that pedestrian environment would look like. This is another example of another road with a median and street trees. And then finally, we would like to also emphasize that we looked at how you could achieve this using, of course, first of all, the market analysis that Kevin presented, meaning funding and finance. How do you govern and manage the project? That means you got to put in the tools, have a project manager, develop a steering committee, so on. And of course, the assembly of the land, because you've got landowners, existing landowners on both sides of the project. And of course, the projects themselves, please make sure that there's an integrated stormwater system with the design, the gateways, the utilities, and a complete street rebuild at this stage would be very important. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention, and we hope that you liked it.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, we have 30 minutes left. At this time, this item is open to the public to be heard. Either one. Oh, well, you could have gone to this one.
Hi, Ellen Abramson, 2345 Magnolia Drive. And it's been many years since I have been here. My daughter-in-law is from Tianjin, China. She has 2 masters from FIU, the second an international MBA with a concentration in marketing with, of course, highest honors. She also, with me, thinks this is a ridiculous idea. To pair the students with FIU to this concept is there are a minuscule amount of Chinese students there. When I first mentioned this to her, she was flabbergasted. She said when she was at FIU, she wanted to go shopping. She wouldn't go all the way over there to buy Chinese food or Chinese anything. Students from China, as she has said, are from China. They don't need to go to a Chinatown. And to say that FIU is going to be an integral part, well, maybe they'll take some students over once in a while. The presentation was beautiful. The renditions are magnificent. Some of them I felt I was living in another country or another city altogether because it didn't seem like there was that amount of room. What I find, this reminds me a little bit of when you close 17th Avenue for Johnson & Wales and they will all come and sit and relax and nobody's there and nothing's done. It was 102 heat index the other day. People are not going to be coming any place to sit outside in the summer in Miami. What I am flabbergasted is that you would even discuss this when there are there's no financial information. You want to approve a project, but you're not saying what it's going to cost, who's paying for it, are the taxpayers paying for it, do you think it's going to be part of the bond you may or might not get? Is it going to be corporations? Is it going to be people from China? My daughter-in-law was recently in LA, and she said Chinatown in LA was very empty. The stores, a lot of them are closed. There were not a lot of people there. She works for the Treasury Department in Washington, is not impressed with Chinatown in Washington. So when you have somebody who's from Tianjin and has been treated as a VIP at the Florida International University campus, Tianjin, because my son was president of student government of FIU, and people who live there or know more about China than any of us ever will think this is a nuts idea. People are not getting off ships to come to Chinatown in North Miami. I think
you are benefiting from the fact that our timer was kind of off. But
what?
You can go. You still got 30 more seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been here in probably 5-10 years.
Okay.
But you know I do email you sometimes.
I know.
Yeah. I think the presentation was wonderful. They did a great job. However, I think the infrastructure, the roads, the pavement, the lighting, it is imperative that that be done on Northwest 7th and in the whole city. But that area has been neglected, and it's not fair to the residents there.
All right.
But that does not mean that you're going to, this green card bit with money, with Trump as president,
We got you.
dream on.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open. Yes.
Judy Brown, 1100 Northwest 128 Terrace. I do not think that people in China would allocate $3 million of their CRA fund to build a Haitian town in China. I don't think so. This doesn't make any sense to me. We should focus on developing businesses that focus on the culture of the people who live in my district. The residents in District 4 need the CRA fund to be given in grants to young, upcoming entrepreneurs to attract them to the area. Also, this money should be spent on eliminating the condition of urban blight that exists throughout the city of North Miami. Rundown properties, trash that impacts all districts throughout the city, not only in District 4. I just called my council person about trash that was not picked up from Monday before I got here. Our council person has spearheaded a project to upgrade the facade on 7th Avenue businesses recently, and it looks nice. He did that. Now, the city wants to tear this down, put in facade. What a waste of taxpayer money. Where are these developers with the deep pockets? When this concept was first brought to us at the homeowners meeting, we were told that there was going to be deep developers from China. These people had deep pockets. They was going to undertake this project. What happened? Finally, in the Sunday paper, it stated that the money that I'm concerned about is the $3 million CRA money. It said that this money will actually be spent for the infrastructure, building what the gentleman has said about the putting the grounds on the lines on the ground and things like that. But according to the paper, this will cost for 7th Avenue $19 million. And we're only talking right now about the $3 million for the CRA money. That means that we need $22 more million for this project. People, let me say this and I'm going to sit. I don't like to go over my time. But we need restrooms at Pepper Park. The little children are still urinating around the building when we have a lot of games out there. We've been begging for those at the tennis court. Sasso Pool is not, the project is not complete. We need the neighborhood is fumigated from the smell from the waste plant right there by Sasso Pool.
Ms. Brown.
Yes, I'm gone.
No. I was just going to ask you to not miss the regular meeting starting at.
I'm going to be here.
Because we want to hear this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So this is my last thing is that we do not need. I don't want
Next
your
meeting.
legacy to be. Let me say this, Mayor, and because you and I don't want your legacy to be that we line the pockets of these billionaires investors.
Public hearing is still open.
Mike McDermott, 840 Northeast 127th Street. As you know, the advisory committee approved the conceptual plan by unanimous vote. And this is the reason for it. I think that all of us, and by the way, several members of the advisory committee are from the west side of North Miami, 3 of them to be exact, and they all voted for this conceptual plan. And the reason is we all know that 7th Avenue needs a lot of help. We also know that 7th Avenue has a tremendous amount of potential. We, like many others in the city, were aware of many facets of the concept of the Chinatown, and most of us went to most of the workshops that were there and held in this plan. However, we had not had the privilege of seeing this conceptual master plan in full. When we saw it at our meeting, we were very, very impressed by not only the presentation, but some of the things they did not have a chance to speak to tonight is some of the great financial impact that this could possibly have on 7th Avenue and the benefits financially to the citizens on the west side of North Miami. Again, we all want to do something for 7th Avenue. We understand that making some of this come to fruition is going to perhaps mean that we're going to have to change or do a text amendment to our comprehensive plan. We know that this is a work in progress, but we think we have to start somewhere, and I think everyone on the committee thought that this is a great place to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott.
Good evening. My name is Paul Murphy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sometimes I can't hear myself, so I have to ask you.
All right.
I'm a builder developer for 51 years now. I come from a family of builders. Does that mean I'm over with already?
No. Go ahead.
I'm just teasing. My grandfather arrived in San Francisco in 1906, right after the earthquake, and our family helped rebuild Chinatown in San Francisco. So we're very much aware of Chinatown. Now let's realistically look from a development point of view what you're doing here. You're actually taking a 16-block area and you're designating it for redevelopment. All that money doesn't have to come from you. We have a site across from the port in Miami where we're going to build a 75-story building. It's an international trade center. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's 1.5 million square feet, but we have residential in this building. Of the 75 stories there, 20 of them are office. We have retail on the first and second floor. We have a hotel, 16 floors of hotel, and we have 30 floors of residential because a mixed use works. I went to college in D.C., and when I graduated, I started working for Clark Construction, which is now building the Miami arena, in Miami Beach. I've worked in small areas where we had all the retail on the first floor, and the projects were successful when we had residential on the upper floors because it's the community that enlivens this space, and if they're not living there, they're not going to have any need to be there. So one thing that I disagree with the gentleman that put this together, and I've dealt with every firm that's here in one way or another over the years, I don't agree with just limiting it to commercial, retail, and hotel. I think a strong element has to be residential, and no matter what concept this eventually becomes, you have a great development at your site. We deal with, I deal with Chinese banks right now. I deal with the EB5 right now. We have EB5 investors. We deal with Chinese shipping, and we know that this could be successful because there are going to be a lot of Chinese coming to Miami. So it could be successful, but even if it didn't turn into a success as a Chinese location, it could be a tremendous success as a business location.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open. We have to hear the people.
Good evening, Jessica Alston, 1140 Northwest 125 Street. I am against and have been against from first hearing about Chinatown being placed on Northwest 7th Avenue in Sunkist Grove. I don't know the previous speaker, I don't know what he was talking about. He's probably not aware that you already changed the zones so you could have tenement housing or slums, slum housing, built on 7th Avenue up to 10 floors high, so he's not up to date with what's going on. It's a travesty to even think about putting a Chinatown on Northwest 7th Avenue. It does not reflect the culture or interests of the community, and we are opposed to it. The only interest that could come to the community from that would be jobs, and most Chinese establishments don't employ people who don't look like them. We do not want a casino in our neighborhood, in a hotel, in Chinatown, on 7th Avenue. We don't want a casino there. We don't want human trafficking. We don't want drug trading. We don't want gang wars. These are some of the consequences or the negative effects that happens in this kind of environment. Community redevelopment money should be used to develop the community. We know our community is in desperate need of development after all we have been through with Hurricane Irma, which we are still suffering from and has not been addressed. How could there, when there's a need, in the paper it said $130 million or $30 million needed to revamp the city, and you're talking about giving money to Chinatown? That is absolutely outrageous, even CRA money. Community redevelopment money should be used to develop the community,
Thank
not
you.
to import another community.
Thank you, Ms. Alston.
Kenneth H. 776.
Guess for the sake of time, we'll probably take him as the last one. Unless there is somebody else who wants to speak, please come now to the front, because we only have 15 more minutes.
You're going to give me 15 minutes to speak? Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead. If you wish to speak, please come to the front.
Kenneth H. 776 Northeast 125th Street. I'm on the Planning Commission and also the CRA Advisory. I've been in the city for 40 years, and what I've seen is stagnation, no growth, nothing. This is a very bold idea. 7th Avenue between 143rd and 119th Street can be the savior of our city. I like the idea of mixed use, but one of the things that's going to hold us back on this is in our master plan, we said we have to have 3 or more components for mixed use. Now, for some reason, we don't want, or the council said no residential on the east side of Northwest 7th Avenue on I-95. I just came back from up north. Used the I-95 corridor. Washington, Alexandria, New York City, Baltimore, downtown Miami. Everybody has residential off of the expressway. Now, the Land Use Institute stated that people that work, live, and play in the same area can revitalize that area. They found this out in London when they built that big Ferris wheel. They didn't have the one component, and that was residential. I would love nothing more to see synergy on that 7th Avenue. People living, working, and playing in the same area. But if we don't have residential, this plan is doomed to fail. You know, I listened to Ms. Abrams before, and she's talking about Johnson and Wales. Well, I walk there every day, and I see people sitting outside using that beautiful plaza over there. I use it. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Thank
we
you.
need synergy in the city. We need development. And you know what? The way we run developers out of town, we better go to China and get them, because that's the only people that are going to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there are 2 more people who want to be heard.
Hector Medina, 1270 Northeast 124. I just want to warn you about dealing with Chinese people or Chinese businessmen. The government of Nicaragua invested a huge amount of money on their canal that the Chinese were going to build. Next thing you know, the Chinese had the major investment on the widening of the Panama Canal, and the Nicaraguans were whole with all the money. Many countries in Africa also got involved with Chinese developers and got screwed. So the concept of developing that particular area is great, but Chinese is, nobody comes to Miami to go to Chinatown. I go to the beach every other day. I meet with people from all over the world. They come here for the beach and to see the girls. That's it.
Good evening, Beverly Hilton. Do I need to give my address?
90210.
I'm sorry? Beverly Hilton, 12495 Northwest 6th Avenue. My resident is close to 7th Avenue. I've been living there since 1997. I think it's about time for change. And I don't think this is about developing 7th Avenue. Am I correct? It's not about anyone could come and develop. It's not out there for just Chinese developers. And beautiful presentation. I agree with Kevin earlier about multi-use, because I grew up in New York, and if you go downtown Manhattan, you have resident above and business in the bottom. So I think that's a great plan, and this is a great development for 7th Avenue, and please, we need this for our district. It's about developing 7th Avenue. It's about bringing developers to 7th Avenue, not a Chinese development, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Julio Mejia, 811 Northeast 123rd Street. Just really quick, you guys should Google North Miami Beach, Chinatown. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'd just like to note for the record, I know you all have a city council meeting
Mhm.
scheduled for 7 p.m. tonight. I mean, if you're anticipating a protracted board discussion on this matter, perhaps you may want to defer the item until the next meeting or to another meeting at this point. There are a couple other things on the agenda as well, and I know you have a lengthy city council agenda.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
No, I mean, it's well taken. I mean, that was going to be my suggestion as well. And if the council doesn't mind, we probably
Public
should.
hearing closed?
Yeah, I mean, because it's only 7 minutes left, and this is a highly debated a topic, and I think we should give the people the opportunity to be heard. And tabling it for the next, CRA meeting, I wouldn't mind if. And so, because we have 2 more items that we can quickly go through.
I would like to make a motion to continue because the presentation raised a lot more issues. I have questions, and I'm not really comfortable voting on exactly this plan this evening.
That's why I'm asking if we could table it so we can
I would make a motion
better.
to continue it or continue it.
Oh, I mean, continue table. Oh, you mean for next meeting?
Whatever our attorney says.
Yeah.
Motion to table would bring it to the next meeting, and there's no discussion on a motion to table once seconded. Motion to defer. Okay.
Hmm?
She made a motion to table.
Motion to table
to
for
the next meeting.
For next meeting.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor made by Board Member Keys to table the item to the next meeting and seconded by Board Member Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0.
And a local agreement, quickly, in 5 minutes.
Very, very quickly, through the mayor. This is just the update. I alluded to it already. Last Tuesday, the city's third interlocal, or third amendment to the interlocal cooperative agreement with the county was dutifully approved by the county commission, and basically clearing the way for us to operate our CRA the way it has been for the last few years, with no issues of geography or anything. So I wanted to make sure that we announce that officially here at the meeting, and then I'll let Ms. Kimmel talk about the award.
Before the award, I mean, you can't pass that without giving credit to Ms. Commissioner Sally Heyman, who has been working, tirelessly with us for the past couple of years with the CRA, the initiative that we've taken here on the dais. Sally, my hat is off to her, and also all the staff members from Miami-Dade County and the other commissioners who actually saw this in a positive light. As a city which is on the move, our CRA is very vital, is very important for us to move ahead. So we have to give credit and thank Commissioner Sally Heyman for taking the leading role.
Absolutely, we do. In fact, unfortunately, we missed her at our meeting last week.
Yeah.
She got over here, but she got over here late. But I thank her for working very closely with myself and Rasha through this process. She truly ushered this. She ushered this item through the county. So.
We also did get specific supports from Commissioner Edmondson, as well as Commissioner Suarez, and many other commissioners. So with that, the city CRA can move on. Thank you. Awards.
And lastly, the North Miami CRA is the recipient of the 2017 Florida Redevelopment Association Award for the Best Market Positioning Plan. We had entered into, because they have several awards that they give out every year, and we did present the CRA plan and the market positioning plan for consideration, and we actually won an award. So the city manager and I are going next week for our annual FRA conference. There's a dinner Thursday night on the 19th, and I'm very happy to say that Councilman Desulme and Councilman Bien-Aimé will be driving up that day to be at the award. And I am also graduating as a certified CRA person.
Hooray.
So we will have pictures. They will be taking pictures of the group right before the awards, so they can include it into a book, and we'll have an awards book to present to the board next month.
You forgot one thing.
Yes, sir.
That our CRA is at the strongest point ever.
Yes.
Right? That's it.
Our CRA is at the strongest point ever.
I will only repeat what I'm told to repeat.
And lastly, the calendar of meetings. Again, every October we advertise it already in the Herald. It'll be on our website. CRA Advisory Committee meetings are every first Monday of the month at 6:30, and CRA board meetings are every second Tuesday of the month at 5:30. Thank you.
There is a point here for public comments and everything, but it's almost 7 o'clock, so.
No, it's actually 7.
Somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we'll adjourn the meeting for the CRA agenda, and we'll take a quick recess and reconvene in 5 minutes for our regularly scheduled, well, I guess 10 minutes for our regularly scheduled city commission meeting.